All right, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Farley, Mr. Goldstein, welcome back. The way we're going to do these first couple of questions, they're broad enough in direction that I would like to ask them of both of you. So we'll go with response from one, response from the other, and 3 minutes on those, and then a minute rebuttal for each. The first question, and we will then just start out with Mr. Farley. What is the fiscal impact of implementation on New Jersey? What would be the fiscal impact of implementing the existing proposed legislation in New Jersey?
Nothing, because it doesn't address it.
All right. Mr. Goldstein, what would be the fiscal impact of implementing this?
Well, according to both versions of the bill that exist right now, we'd see quite a significant fiscal impact. First of all, on the public safety budgets of our communities. We spend money in our public safety budget right now to arrest, prosecute, and jail medical marijuana offenders. That would stop. So we'd save a lot of money that way. Second of all, under provisions of the bill, the alternative treatment centers would have medical marijuana for sale. There would be tax proposed into the sale of medical marijuana. The fiscal impact here, Mr. Farley mentioned Oregon. Oregon's medical marijuana program nets a profit for the state based on their $250 a year annual registration for the medical marijuana program. Here in New Jersey, we may be able to tax medical marijuana. The benefits could net the state up to $5 million a month.
All right. Rebuttal, Mr. Farley.
We may be able to do anything. We may be able to fly, but you asked what are the impact of these bills. These bills don't mention fiscal matters at all. And as far as how much it costs to implement a law, that's what it costs to implement a law. And, you know, we keep hearing the same thing, that we're jailing medical marijuana users. That is such nonsense that it really doesn't even need a response. But you notice you've heard it maybe 10 times tonight, because that's the way they get these bills passed, by having legislators who have no medical knowledge get compassionate with people, as they would say, by telling people we're putting them in jail. I did a debate in Congress back in the 90s against a group called FAM, Families Against Minimum Mandatories. We spent almost a year, and Senator Schumer gave them 6 months to come up with egregious cases. And of the several 100,000 arrests, there were 6 times that they said the arrest was not maybe proper.
Thank you. Rebuttal, if you would like.
You know, on this issue, people are in jail right now. There's the case of John Ray Wilson. He's being prosecuted by the Deputy Attorney General of New Jersey for growing 17 marijuana plants behind his house. He is facing a 15-year felony sentence because in New Jersey, even one marijuana plant can bring you a felony charge of operating a drug manufacturing facility. One single marijuana plant. That's in the case of medical patients who don't want to risk themselves and their family on the underground market and who want a safe access program. When we say safe access, it means keeping people off the streets and keeping people in alternative treatment centers to get their medications so that they don't have to resort to growing it at home. And when you do grow it at home, just like John Ray Wilson, who's a 36-year-old man with MS, facing a 15-year prison sentence, if John gets that 15-year felony, that's a death sentence for John. That's what happens to MS patients, Mr. Farley.
Thank you. All right, this question comes from one of our attendees today. Mr. Goldstein, direct it to you. Since medical marijuana is beneficial, why is it still a Schedule I substance under federal law?
There's actually a simple answer to that. In 1972, the Nixon administration did a blue ribbon presidential commission. It was called, in colloquial terms, the Schaefer Commission. It was the Commission on Marijuana. They took experts, psychologists, sociologists, medical professionals, societal professionals, elected officials. In fact, it was run by a former Republican governor of Pennsylvania, Robert Schaefer, who passed away last year. They went around the country for 2 years and came back with their recommendation, which was to remove marijuana from Schedule I in the Controlled Substances Act. Remove it from Schedule I in the CSA. and also decriminalize personal possession. President Nixon, on his own authority in the White House, and I've actually listened to the tapes of when Mr. Schaefer came to the White House to issue his report. I don't think I've ever heard a president curse so much. President Nixon wanted the commission to keep marijuana illegal. When they came back with the common sense recommendation, based on their own observations and their own study of the problem, that marijuana be removed from Schedule 1, he did not do it. And that is the situation we're in today. If that recommendation by the Presidential Commission had been followed, we wouldn't be even here tonight.
Thank you. Rebuttal, Mr. Farley.
Well, again, we're dealing with if the world ended tomorrow type argument that Mr. Goldstein uses all the time. They didn't change it, so what? The problem is we do have it under Schedule 1. Do I care if it's Schedule 1 or Schedule 2 or Schedule 3? Answer is absolutely not. And most law enforcement officers would probably tell you it really doesn't belong there. That Schedule 1 ought to be heroin, cocaine, maybe LSD. There's no big deal, and it would not have changed things one iota. Whether this is a Schedule 1 or 2 or 3 drug doesn't determine whether it's illegal or whether or not you can use it illegally. It has no impact here whatsoever.
Thank you. Mr. Farley, another one from the audience. Why is the FDA's non-approval of marijuana used in the opposition argument if the FDA cannot test a Schedule 1 drug?
Well, there's no such thing as the FDA can't test them. I don't know where that story came from, but they test them all the time. The FDA has approved hundreds of studies of marijuana. We have a 200-acre farm at the University of Mississippi that's been there for about 30 years, that if you can get approval from the government to do a study, they'll give you the drugs. As a matter of fact, they had about 40 people who were getting the drug for their conditions. Only one is still living. They all died over the course of the years. But the fact is, it's still there. There's no prohibition against a Schedule 1 drug, or we would have no Schedule 1 drugs that you could use. And there are tons of Schedule 1 drugs that are pharmaceutical drugs. Is there some law that happened that I don't know about that all of a sudden the government can't look at the efficacy of a drug? That, again, is a story that comes out of the rest of the fallacy of these arguments.